I pushed open my bedroom door at 2 in the afternoon, expecting the familiar scent of lavender and the sight of my late husband's photo on the nightstand. Instead, I found 3 burly men ripping up my hardwood floors, while my daughter-in-law, Charlotte, supervised with a clipboard. "What are you doing in my house?" I gasped. Charlotte's smile was razor sharp. "We're doing some renovations before we move in." The next morning, when the police knocked on my door, I discovered just how deep her scheme really went. My name is Inez, and at 68 years old, I thought I'd seen enough of life to avoid its major pitfalls. 8 months had passed since my Harold left this world, and I was finally finding my rhythm again. Our 4-bedroom house in suburban Denver had become my sanctuary filled with 43 years of memories. Every morning, I'd water Harold's rose garden, then head to the library where I volunteered teaching computer basics to other seniors. Life wasn't what it used to be, but I was managing. Bradley, our only son, had grown distant since the funeral. At 42, he worked for a tech company downtown, always buried in projects and conference calls. His wife Charlotte had started coming around more often lately, which surprised me since we'd never been particularly close in the 5 years since their wedding. "You look tired, Inez," Charlotte would say, arriving with containers of what she called brain-healthy meals. She was 38, a real estate agent with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "This house must be so much work for you." I'd brush off her concerns, but she persisted. Bradley started echoing her worries during his rare visits. "Mom, this place is huge for one person. Have you thought about something more manageable?" Then came the brochures. Charlotte would leave them scattered on my kitchen counter like breadcrumbs leading to a trap. Sunrise Senior Living, Golden Years Community. Each pamphlet featured smiling, elderly people playing cards in cramped apartments. "Just looking at options," she'd say when I questioned her, "for when you're ready." Their grandson, Tyler, used to brighten my weekends with his visits, but at 15, he'd grown quiet and withdrawn. His appearances became less frequent, and when he did come, he'd spend most of the time staring at his phone while Charlotte chattered about property values and maintenance costs. The first real warning sign came during Sunday dinner 3 weeks ago. While I served Harold's famous pot roast recipe, I caught Charlotte photographing my dining room with her phone. She moved methodically, capturing every angle. "Interior design ideas," she explained when I asked. "This vintage style is coming back." Something in her tone made my skin prickle, but I pushed the feeling aside. "Family doesn't betray family," Harold always said. I should have remembered his other favorite saying, "Trust but verify." My book club met every Tuesday at the community center. We were halfway through discussing our latest mystery novel when a sharp pain bloomed behind my eyes. Migraines had plagued me since Harold's death, but this one felt different, more intense. "I need to go home." I told Margaret, my closest friend in the group. She offered to drive me, but I insisted I was fine. The 15-minute drive felt like an hour as the pain pulsed with each heartbeat. That's when I saw the construction van in my driveway. Charlotte's Choice Renovations was painted on the side in gaudy purple letters. My key trembled in my hand as I unlocked the front door. The sound hit me first, violent and wrong. Hammering, drilling, the screech of wood being torn apart. I climbed the stairs on unsteady legs, following the noise to my bedroom. The door stood open, and the scene inside stopped my heart. 3 men in dust-covered clothes were destroying Harold's handcrafted floors, the ones he'd installed himself during our first year in the house. Charlotte stood in the center of the chaos, clipboard in hand, directing the destruction like a conductor, leading an orchestra of ruin. "Pull up that section next," she instructed, pointing to the area near our bed. "Check underneath for any structural issues." "What are you doing in my house?" The words came out as a whisper, then stronger. "What are you doing?" Charlotte turned, not a flicker of surprise on her face. She'd been expecting me. "Inez, you're home early. We wanted to surprise you." "Surprise me, you're destroying my floor." "We're doing some renovations before we move in," she announced, as if discussing the weather. "Bradley thought it would be easier if we handled everything. You won't have to worry about a thing. The room spun, and not from my migraine. Move in, this is my house. Charlotte's smile sharpened into something predatory. She reached into her designer purse and pulled out a manila folder. Actually, that's what we need to discuss. Bradley has been so worried about you lately. The forgotten appointments, the unpaid bills, that incident at the grocery store. What incidents? What are you talking about? She opened the folder with theatrical slowness. We've already filed the paperwork, Inez. Bradley has power of attorney now. Dr. Ashford agreed it was for the best given your declining mental state. My legs felt weak. I gripped the doorframe to stay upright. You're lying. The renovation is just the first step. Charlotte continued, her voice dripping false sympathy. We need to update the house before we list it. The proceeds will cover your care at a wonderful facility. They specialize in memory issues. One of the workers pried up a floorboard near Harold's nightstand, and I saw a glimpse of metal underneath. Charlotte's eyes flicked to the spot, then back to me. Why don't you go lie down? This must be overwhelming. Bradley will be here soon to explain everything. I backed out of the room, my mind racing. The metal under the floorboards. Harold had always been secretive about his hiding spots, claiming a military man needed his precautions. What had these vultures stumbled upon? Charlotte's voice followed me down the hall. Gentlemen, let's take a break. We'll continue tomorrow. I locked myself in the downstairs bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. In the mirror, I saw my mother's eyes staring back at me. She'd fought her own battles in her time. Never let them see you sweat, Inez, she used to say. Tears are for private. In public, you smile and plan. Through the bathroom window, I watched the workers load their equipment into the van. Charlotte supervised her phone pressed to her ear. I couldn't hear the words, but her gestures were animated, excited. She'd won the lottery, and I was the prize. When Bradley's Tesla pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the living room with a cup of tea, the picture of calm. My hands didn't shake, my voice didn't waver, but inside, a storm was building. Mom, Bradley said, entering with Charlotte at his side. He looked older than his years, stress etched in lines around his eyes. We need to talk. Yes, I agreed, setting down my teacup with deliberate care. I believe we do. Charlotte produced more documents, spreading them across my coffee table like tarot cards predicting my doom. Forged signatures, falsified medical reports, a web of lies designed to trap me. As she explained their plan with barely concealed glee, I studied my son's face. Where was the boy who used to climb into our bed during thunderstorms? When had he become this stranger, willing to steal his mother's life? It's for your own good, Bradley said, not meeting my eyes. You haven't been yourself since Dad died. Your father would be ashamed, I said quietly. Something flickered across his face there and gone like lightning. Charlotte's hand touched his arm, a warning or reminder, and his expression hardened. Dad's not here, he said. Someone has to make the tough decisions. As they outlined their plans, my mind cataloged every detail. The construction company belonged to Charlotte's cousin. Dr. Martin Ashford had been my physician for only 6 months after my longtime doctor retired. The judge who would review the competency case was Bradley's golf buddy from the country club. They'd thought of everything, almost. Where's Tyler? I asked suddenly. Does he know about this? At school, of course, Charlotte answered too quickly. No need to involve him in adult matters. Through the living room window, I caught a movement in the backyard. A shadow by the basement window there and gone. My heart lifted slightly. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. You look pale, Mom, Bradley observed. Maybe you should rest. We'll handle everything tomorrow. Yes, I agreed, standing on steady legs. Tomorrow changes everything. As they prepared to leave, Charlotte paused at the door. Oh, Inez, you might want to start packing. The facility has limited space for personal items, just the essentials. I smiled, the expression my mother taught me, sweet as honey, sharp as glass. I'll pack exactly what I need, dear. After their car disappeared around the corner, I stood in my destroyed bedroom. The workers had exposed 3 of Harold's hiding spots before Charlotte stopped them. Whatever they'd seen had excited her enough to pause the demolition. I knelt beside the exposed metal box, my fingers tracing its edges. Harold's voice echoed in my memory. "If anything happens to me, Inez, remember what I taught you. The best defense looks like surrender." Tomorrow, Charlotte promised everything would change. She had no idea how right she was. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay in the guest room listening to the house settle around me, each creak, a reminder of what I stood to lose. At 3 in the morning, I gave up pretending and made my way to the kitchen. The fluorescent light felt too bright, exposing the cracks in my carefully maintained composure. I was filling the kettle when I heard it. A soft scraping from the basement, like something being dragged across concrete. My hand found Harold's old baseball bat, kept behind the kitchen door since his death. The basement door opened silently, and I descended into darkness. "Grandma." The whispered word nearly stopped my heart. Tyler emerged from behind the furnace, disheveled and dirty, his usually styled hair hanging limp across his forehead. "Tyler, what on earth?" "I've been hiding down here for 3 days," he said, his voice cracking. "I heard them planning everything. I wanted to warn you, but Mom took my phone, said I was grounded from electronics." I pulled my grandson into my arms, feeling how thin he'd gotten. 3 days. What have you been eating?" "The emergency supplies Dad made us store down here. Grandpa's old military rations, mostly." He pulled back, his eyes serious beyond his 15 years. "Grandma, I have evidence. Before Mom took my main phone, I uploaded everything to the cloud, but I kept my old phone hidden. I've been recording them." He produced a battered iPhone from his pocket, its screen cracked but functional. "Listen to this." Charlotte's voice filled the basement tinny through the phone speaker. "The old woman has millions hidden somewhere. Bradley says his father was paranoid about banks after his military service. We just need her declared incompetent before she figures out what we're doing. Then Bradley, the medication Dr. Ashford prescribed should keep her confused enough. Double the dose if needed." "How did you record this?" I asked, struggling to process the betrayal. "Dad had me install security cameras in their bedroom. Last year said Mom was cheating. I kept the access codes." Tyler's face darkened. "I've got hours of recordings. They've been planning this for 2 years, Grandma, since before Grandpa died." 2 years. While Harold was fighting cancer, his son was plotting to steal his legacy. "There's more." Tyler continued swiping through files. "Mom's been meeting with that doctor. Not just meetings, Grandma. They're together, and she has a different name on some documents. Scarlett Vaughn." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. "Show me everything." For the next hour, Tyler revealed the depth of their deception. Charlotte had intercepted mail-stolen jewelry during visits, created a false paper trail of my supposed decline. She'd canceled doctor appointments, then claimed I'd forgotten them. Paid a grocery store employee to lie about me being confused. Even staged photographs of me looking disheveled by drugging my afternoon tea. "The worst part," Tyler said, his voice breaking, "is what I heard last week. Mom said once they get the house, they'll make sure you never leave that facility. She knows someone who'll keep you sedated, permanently." Rage burned through me, cold and clarifying. They weren't just stealing my home. They planned to steal my life. "Tyler, I need you to stay hidden for now. Can you do that?" He nodded. "There's something else. Yesterday, when the workers found those metal boxes, I heard one of them say there were at least 10 more under different sections. Mom got really excited, told them to map the locations, but not open anything yet. Harold's safes. He'd spent months creating hiding spots during his retirement, claiming a man needed his secrets. I thought it was paranoia from his military police days. Now I realized he'd been preparing for this exact scenario. "Go back to your hiding spot," I told Tyler. "Keep recording everything, but stay safe. Your parents can't know you're here." Dawn was breaking as I returned to the guest room. I showered, dressed carefully in my best blazer, and prepared for war. Charlotte arrived at 9 sharp, dressed like she was attending a board meeting rather than destroying an old woman's life. Bradley followed, avoiding eye contact as they spread more papers across my dining table. "We've scheduled your evaluation for tomorrow," Charlotte announced. "Dr. Ashford will conduct it at his office. Just a formality." "I see." I signed where they indicated my hand steady. Let them think they'd won. "Will Tyler be visiting soon? I'd like to see my grandson." Charlotte's smile tightened. "He's very busy with school, finals coming up." Through the window, I saw a familiar car pull up. Eugene Walker, Harold's military buddy, walked his dog past the house just as he had every morning since Harold's death. He glanced at the construction van, then at me through the window. I blinked 3 times. Our old signal from when Harold was alive. Trouble. Eugene's barely perceptible nod told me he understood. The demolition continued, workers trampling through my sanctuary in dirty boots. Charlotte directed them to Harold's study next, eager to expose more hiding spots. I sat in my chair playing the confused elderly woman they expected, while mentally cataloging every word, every crime. Mrs. Henderson. One of the workers, younger than the others, approached nervously. "We found something weird under this section. Looks like... Is that a military document?" Charlotte snatched the paper from his hands. Her face went pale as she read. "Get back to work," she snapped, "and don't touch anything else without my permission." She huddled with Bradley in the corner, whispering urgently. I caught fragments. "Discharge papers. Classified. Could be worth." Harold, my clever husband, had left breadcrumbs for me to follow. Dr. Martin Ashford arrived after lunch, all false concern and medical authority. Tall and distinguished with silver temples, I could see why Charlotte had fallen for his act. He took my blood pressure, checked my pupils, asked seemingly innocent questions designed to trap me. "Have you been taking your medication regularly, Inez?" "Every day, doctor." I'd been flushing them down the toilet for weeks. Any confusion, forgetfulness? Well, at my age, who doesn't forget things sometimes? He made notes, exchanging meaningful looks with Charlotte. "I think we should adjust your prescription. These new pills should help with the transition." I accepted the bottle with gratitude I didn't feel, more poison disguised as medicine. As the day wore on, the truth emerged in pieces. Charlotte let slip that she'd already contacted an auction house about the furniture. Bradley mentioned a realtor coming next week. They spoke about my future in past tense, as if I'd already disappeared. "Where will you live once the house sells?" I asked innocently. "Oh, we'll build something modern on the lot," Charlotte said. "This old place would cost too much to maintain properly." Build on the lot. They planned to destroy Harold's house entirely. That evening after they'd gone, I found Tyler in the basement again. He'd recorded everything, including Charlotte's reaction to the military document. "Grandma, I hacked into Mom's email. She's been writing to someone named Victor Vaughn. Her father, I think. He's in federal prison." I stared at the emails Tyler showed me, references to the soldier who ruined our family, and finally getting justice for what Henderson did to you. Henderson, Harold's last name. The final piece clicked into place with horrible clarity. This wasn't just about money, it was revenge. "Tyler, I need you to do something dangerous. Can you get into your father's home office tonight? I still have my house key. They think I'm at friend's house all week. Look for anything about your grandfather's military service, specifically anyone named Vaughn." As Tyler prepared to leave through the basement window, I caught his arm. "Be careful. If they catch you..." "They won't," he said with Harold's determination. "Grandpa taught me how to be invisible. Remember?" I did remember. Harold had played spy games with Tyler since he was small, teaching him to move silently, think strategically. My husband had been preparing our grandson for war without realizing it. Alone again, I sat in Harold's study surrounded by the destruction. The workers had exposed 8 of his hiding spots, but hadn't opened them on Charlotte's orders. She wanted to be present for each discovery, savoring her victory. I picked up Harold's favorite photo our wedding day 50 years ago. Young Inez stared back full of hope and trust. That woman had grown stronger than she ever imagined possible. "You knew this would happen," I whispered to Harold's image. "You prepared for it. Now show me what to do." As if in answer, my fingers found a hidden switch in the frame. A tiny compartment opened, revealing a brass key and a note in Harold's handwriting. My dearest Inez, if you're reading this, the war has come home. Remember, the enemy expects weakness. Give them what they expect while you prepare for battle. The key opens the truth. You'll know where. All my love, H. I closed my eyes thinking, where would Harold hide his most important secret? Then I smiled. The rose garden, of course. Tomorrow they thought they'd won. Charlotte would parade me before her corrupt doctor had me declared incompetent, steal everything Harold and I had built. But tonight, under cover of darkness, I would dig in the rose garden my husband planted. I would find what he left for me, and I would begin to fight back. Charlotte thought she was playing chess while I played checkers. She was about to learn that Harold had taught me the game from a master. And in chess, the queen is always the most powerful piece on the board. The rose garden held its secrets well. At 2 a.m, I knelt in the soft earth between Harold's prize-winning Mr. Lincoln roses, my arthritic knees protesting every movement. The brass key trembled in my dirt-caked fingers as I unearthed a steel box buried 18 inches deep, exactly where Harold had planted our anniversary roses 10 years ago. Inside, wrapped in waterproof plastic, lay Harold's insurance policy. Not the kind from any company, but the kind a military police investigator keeps when he knows darkness might follow him home. Photos, documents, recordings on old cassette tapes, and a leather journal filled with his meticulous handwriting. I brought everything to the kitchen table, brewing strong coffee to keep myself sharp. The first document made my blood run cold. Victor Vaughn's arrest report from 1991. Harold had been the lead investigator who exposed Vaughn's theft ring at Fort Carson, stealing and selling military supplies. Vaughn got 25 years. His daughter Scarlett, aged 14 at the time, had sworn vengeance at the trial. Charlotte was Scarlett Vaughn. Harold's journal revealed he'd recognized her the moment Bradley brought her home, but kept silent, hoping love might change her heart. Instead, he'd prepared for war while praying for peace. Every hiding spot, every safeguard, every lesson taught to Tyler had been deliberate preparation. My phone buzzed, Tyler texting from a burner phone. Found Dad's files, sending photos. Mom's awake, heading to office. Hiding in attic. The photos arrived moments later. Bradley's computer files showed Charlotte's complete history. 5 previous marriages, all to men with elderly parents. 3 dead husbands under suspicious circumstances. 2 inheritance disputes settled out of court. She was a professional predator, and my son was either her accomplice or her next victim. I spent the remaining hours before dawn transforming. The confused elderly woman Charlotte expected disappeared. In her place stood Inez Henderson, wife of a military investigator, mother of a corrupted son, protector of an innocent grandson. First, I contacted Eugene Walker. We met at the 24-hour diner on Colfax, where Harold used to take his sources. "I've been waiting for this call," Eugene said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Harold asked me to watch over you if anything happened. Said the enemy might come from inside." "I need a private investigator, Eugene, the best." That would be me, officially retired but still licensed. Harold made sure I kept current. He pulled out a notebook, all business. "Tell me everything." By the time I finished, Eugene's face had hardened into stone. Charlotte Vaughn. I remember that name from Harold's old cases. Vicious family, the whole lot. "Can you help?" "Already started. That construction van yesterday triggered my radar. I've got photos of everyone who entered your house, license plates, the works." My next stop was Harold's lawyer, Samuel Bradford. Not to be confused with my son Bradley, Samuel was everything my son wasn't. Honest, loyal, and prepared. "Mrs. Henderson." Samuel greeted me at his office door despite the early hour. "Harold said you'd come eventually. He left very specific instructions." The trust documents Harold had prepared were masterworks of protection. The house, the investments, everything was held in an irrevocable trust with conditions Charlotte's scheme couldn't touch. But there was more. Harold recorded every conversation with Bradley for the last 3 years, Samuel revealed. He suspected Charlotte's influence and wanted evidence. The recordings are in a safety deposit box only you can access. Why didn't he tell me? He hoped he was wrong. Harold loved that boy despite everything. But love didn't make him foolish. My third ally surprised me. Margaret from book club arrived at my house at noon just as Charlotte was directing workers to tear apart the library. "Inez, darling," Margaret called out cheerfully. "Ready for lunch." Charlotte intercepted her. "I'm afraid Inez isn't feeling well today." "Nonsense," Margaret pushed past her with the authority of her former career. "Inez, grab your purse. We have reservations." I played along, acting befuddled but compliant. Charlotte couldn't object without showing her hand too early. In Margaret's car, my friend's mask dropped. Prosecutors' instincts never fade Inez. That woman's running a con. I've seen it before. "You were a prosecutor." 25 years, Elder Fraud Division. Retired 5 years ago, but I keep my contacts current. "What's your grandson's friend's name?" "The one supposedly hosting him." "Jason Martinez." Margaret made a call. Within minutes, she confirmed Tyler had never arrived at the Martinez house. "Your grandson's missing officially. Want me to report it?" "Not yet. I know where he is, and he's safer hidden for now." We spent lunch planning. Margaret contacted her former colleagues building a case file. Eugene fed her information as he uncovered Charlotte's past. Samuel prepared legal countermeasures, and I played my role perfectly, returning home confused and compliant. Charlotte had arranged for Dr. Ashford to make a house call that afternoon. More pills, more poison, more documentation of my supposed decline. I accepted everything with grateful confusion, even as I memorized his every word for the recording device hidden in my brooch. "She's deteriorating faster than expected," Dr. Ashford told Charlotte when they thought I was napping. "The mercury supplements are working perfectly. Another month and she'll be completely dependent." Mercury. They'd been slowly poisoning me with mercury. That evening, Tyler risked another message. He'd accessed Charlotte's laptop and found treasure. Screenshots flooded my phone showing offshore accounts, fake identities, and a network of accomplices across 5 states. Most damning was an email thread with someone called The Keeper at a facility named Sunset Shores. Same arrangement as Arizona. Once admitted, no visitors, no phone calls. Maintenance dose until natural conclusion. Natural conclusion. Murder disguised as medical care. The next discovery came from Eugene. Charlotte's cousin, Randy, owner of the construction company, had served time for elder abuse. His workers were mostly undocumented immigrants, desperate people who wouldn't ask questions or report crimes. "But here's the interesting part," Eugene explained during our midnight call. "2 of those workers have consciences. Miguel and Carlos want out but are scared. Charlotte's threatening deportation if they talk." "Can you protect them?" "Already working on it. My contact at ICE owes me favors." Day 3 of my silent war brought unexpected allies. Gladys Templeton, whom I'd never met, called my landline at dawn. "You don't know me, Mrs. Henderson, but we have Charlotte in common. She destroyed my life in Phoenix. I heard she's in Denver now." Gladys's story mirrored mine. Trusted daughter-in-law, sudden mental decline, lost home. But Gladys had fought back too late after losing everything. "I kept evidence," Gladys said. "Photos, recordings, documents. The police said it wasn't enough then, but combined with what she's doing to you." "Send everything to Samuel Bradford." I gave her his information. "And Gladys, thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Charlotte's dangerous when cornered. She tried to burn down my assisted living facility when I started asking questions. Be careful." That afternoon brought the competency evaluation Charlotte had been promising. She drove me to Dr. Ashford's office, chattering about how nice the facility would be, how many friends I'd make. I nodded along, clutching my purse with its hidden camera. Dr. Ashford's evaluation was a farce. He asked leading questions designed to confuse, interrupted my answers, and twisted my words. When I mentioned Harold's roses, he wrote "obsessive fixation on deceased husband" in notes he made sure I could see. "I think we have enough," he told Charlotte after 30 minutes of psychological torture. "Clear signs of dementia, probably Alzheimer's. I recommend immediate placement for her safety." "How soon?" Charlotte asked eagerly. "I can have the papers signed by tomorrow. Judge Morrison is reviewing cases Thursday." Judge Morrison, Bradley's golf buddy. The same judge Eugene discovered was under FBI investigation for bribery. Back home, Charlotte celebrated with champagne while directing workers to rip apart the master bathroom. "The tiles alone are worth thousands," she told someone on the phone. "Vintage Moroccan, according to the appraiser." Those tiles were from our honeymoon in Morocco, each one hand-selected by Harold and me. Watching strangers demolish them felt like watching someone desecrate a grave. Tyler managed to slip me another recording that evening. Charlotte and Bradley discussing my life insurance policies, debating whether to wait for my natural death or speed things along. "The Mercury's too slow," Charlotte complained. "Every day we wait is another day she might figure things out." "She's not figuring out anything," Bradley insisted. "Look at her, she can barely remember our names." If only they knew. That night I executed the first phase of my counterattack. Using Tyler's intelligence, I accessed Charlotte's email and sent a message to the keeper at Sunset Shores. "Plans have changed. The old woman has family lawyers sniffing around. Postpone admission indefinitely. Will contact you with new timeline. SV." Then I sent another email to Randy's construction crew from Charlotte's account. "Stop all work immediately. Potential asbestos discovered. Do not return until further notice. Full pay will continue. Charlotte." Small moves, but they'd buy me time. The real breakthrough came from Harold's recordings in the safety deposit box. Samuel had retrieved them, and we listened together in his office. My husband's voice strong and clear, documenting every suspicious incident. Bradley asking about life insurance. Charlotte photographing financial documents. Conversations about removing obstacles and clearing the path. "This is enough for criminal charges," Samuel said. "But we need more for conspiracy. We need them to incriminate themselves definitively. Then we give them the opportunity," I decided. "How much does Charlotte think I'm worth?" "Based on what she's seen, maybe $2 million. I smiled. Harold was worth far more than that. Let's show her just enough to make her desperate. The next morning, I made a show of checking on Harold's roses, knowing Charlotte watched from the kitchen window. I accidentally dropped a key near the anniversary roses, then panicked looking for it. Charlotte was outside within minutes helping me search. "Is this it?" She held up the key, eyes gleaming. "Oh, thank goodness Harold gave me that years ago. Said it was important, but I can't remember why." I watched her pocket it instead of handing it back. Perfect. Inside the house, I remembered what the key was for. Harold's special box in the basement wall. He said never to open it unless... Oh, what did he say? Charlotte guided me to the basement, playing the concerned daughter-in-law while practically vibrating with greed. I led her to a section of wall Harold had prepared years ago, complete with a hidden panel and a lock that matched the key. Inside sat a briefcase containing fake bank statements showing $20 million in offshore accounts, property deeds for land in Costa Rica, and bearer bonds that looked authentic but were worthless reproductions Harold had used for training exercises. Charlotte's mask slipped completely. Pure avarice transformed her face as she rifled through the papers. "Bradley needs to see this," she breathed. "This changes everything." While she photographed every document, I stumbled and knocked over a box of Christmas decorations, activating the recording device Tyler had hidden there days earlier. Charlotte called Bradley immediately. Their conversation was everything Samuel needed: conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, attempted murder through mercury poisoning, interstate crime connecting to her previous victims. But I needed one more piece: Charlotte's father, the reason for her vendetta. That night, while Charlotte and Bradley celebrated their imagined windfall upstairs, I met with Tyler in the basement. He'd recorded them planning to have me committed within 48 hours. "They've scheduled something called an emergency psychiatric evaluation," he reported. "Mom told Dad once you're in, you'll never come out. She's already got a buyer for the house. Then we'd better move fast. Tyler, I need you to be brave one more time. Anything, Grandma. Tomorrow when they come for me, I need you to call 911. Tell them your grandmother is being kidnapped. Can you do that? His young face set with determination. Grandpa taught me what to do in emergencies. I won't let you down. I hugged my grandson tight, this brave boy who'd risked everything to save me. You already haven't. The next 36 hours would determine everything. Charlotte thought she held all the cards, but she'd forgotten the most important rule of any game. Never underestimate a grandmother protecting her family. The queen was positioned, the board was set. Time to topple the king. Thursday arrived wrapped in storm clouds, fitting weather for the ambush Charlotte had planned. I dressed carefully in my rose print dress, Harold's favorite, and pinned my grandmother's cameo to my collar. The recording device inside captured my steady breathing as I descended the stairs to face my executioners. Charlotte waited in the living room wearing a black suit as if dressed for my funeral. Bradley stood beside her, his face a mask of practiced concern that didn't quite hide the greed underneath. Behind them lurked two orderlies in white uniforms, their bulk suggesting experience with uncooperative patients. "Good morning, Inez," Charlotte chirped. "These nice men are here to take you for your evaluation. Just a few days at the facility for observation." "I haven't packed," I said, letting confusion color my voice. "I've packed for you." Charlotte produced a small suitcase. "Just essentials. We'll bring the rest later." The rest would never come, and we both knew it. "Where's Tyler?" I asked. "I'd like to say goodbye to my grandson." "At school, of course." Bradley's lie came too quickly. "We'll bring him to visit soon." I shuffled toward the suitcase, then stopped. "Wait, I need Morris. Where's Morris?" Charlotte's eye twitched. Morris, my orange tabby, had disappeared 3 weeks ago. Morris ran away. Remember we discussed this? "No," I said firmly. "Morris wouldn't run away. He loved me. What did you do to Morris?" The orderlies shifted impatiently. Charlotte's mask cracked slightly. "Inez, please. These men have a schedule." "You killed him, didn't you?" I let tears fill my eyes. "You killed my cat because he was in your way, just like you're killing me." "Don't be dramatic," Charlotte snapped. Then catching herself, she softened her tone. "You're confused. That's why you need help." "I'm not confused about Morris." I turned to the orderlies. "She poisoned my cat. Made it look like he ran away, but I found his collar in her car. She kills anything that inconveniences her." The larger orderly frowned. "Ma'am, we're just here for transport." "Of course you are," I said, then looked directly at Charlotte. "Just like those men in Arizona were just doing transport." "What was her name?" "The woman who died during transport. Gladys's roommate." Charlotte went rigid. "How do you—" "Ethel Barnes," I continued. 78 years old, died of a heart attack during transport to a facility. Strange how her family never got to see the body. Strange how she'd just updated her will the week before. Bradley grabbed Charlotte's arm. "What's she talking about?" "She's rambling," Charlotte said through gritted teeth. "Classic dementia behavior." I laughed, the sound sharp and clear. "Dementia? Is that what you told Robert's family in Nevada? Or was it Alzheimer's for Patricia in New Mexico?" Charlotte lunged forward. "Shut up!" The orderlies stepped between us, uncertain now. I pressed on, my voice growing stronger. 5 states, Charlotte. Or should I call you Scarlett Vaughn, daughter of Victor Vaughn, the man my Harold put in federal prison for stealing from the military. "You're lying!" Charlotte's composure shattered completely. "That bastard husband of yours destroyed my family. My father died in prison because of him." "Your father died in prison because he was a thief," I shot back. "Just like you." Bradley stared at his wife in horror. "Charlotte, what is she saying? Who's Scarlett Vaughn?" Charlotte spun on him. "Shut up, you pathetic mama's boy, you were supposed to handle this. She should have been drooling by now." "The mercury supplements," I said calmly. "Yes, I know about those too. Dr. Ashford was very chatty in bed, wasn't he?" "Charlotte, did Bradley know you were sleeping with the good doctor?" Bradley's face went white, then red. "What?" "Check her phone." I suggested. Quite artistic photos, really, though I think the medical board might find them more interesting than arousing. Charlotte screamed and launched herself at me. The orderlies caught her holding her back as she writhed and cursed. "You old bitch! You were supposed to be senile. How did you—" A crash from upstairs interrupted her. Tyler's voice rang out young and terrified. "Help, they're hurting my grandmother. Someone call 911. Bradley started for the stairs, but I caught his arm. "Your son's been hiding in this house for 5 days, Bradley. He knows everything. Every crime you planned, every word you spoke. Children hear so much when parents think they're asleep." The front door burst open. Not police, but Eugene Walker with 2 companions. Miguel and Carlos, the construction workers who'd grown consciences. "These men have something to say," Eugene announced. Miguel stepped forward, his English halting but clear. "We were told to put things under the floors. Drugs, they said. To make the old lady look bad. We have photos. We have recordings. We're sorry, Senora. We needed the money, but this is wrong." Charlotte broke free from the orderlies and ran for the back door. She made it 3 steps before Tyler appeared from behind the couch, Harold's old guitar in his hands. The instrument connected with Charlotte's shins with a satisfying twang, sending her sprawling. "That's for Morris, you witch," Tyler said fiercely. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Bradley sank into Harold's chair, his head in his hands. "Mom, I didn't know about Arizona. I didn't know about any of it. She said you were sick. She showed me the medical reports." "The medical reports she forged," I said coldly. "The appointments she canceled. The confusion she created with poison. You chose to believe her because it was profitable, Bradley. That's all." Charlotte struggled to her feet, desperation replacing rage. "The money. Tell them about the money. $20 million she's hoarding, $20 million while pretending to be poor." The fake statements Harold created for training exercises. I pulled out the originals from my purse. Property in Costa Rica that doesn't exist. Bearer bonds that are movie props. You sweet summer child. Did you really think a military investigator wouldn't know how to set a trap? The police arrived in force. Not just local officers, but FBI agents called by Samuel Bradford when I'd given him the signal that morning. Charlotte tried to run again, but there was nowhere to go. As they handcuffed her, she turned to me with pure hatred. "You destroyed my father. You destroyed my life." "Your father destroyed himself," I replied. "You chose to follow his path. Tyler chose differently, and that's why he'll have a future." They arrested Bradley too, though with less force. He went quietly, finally understanding the magnitude of his choices. Dr. Ashford was picked up at his office, his receptionist said. The facility called Sunset Shores was raided simultaneously in 3 states. The orderlies, bewildered by the turn of events, gave statements to the police. They'd been hired, legitimately told they were helping a confused elderly woman. Another layer of Charlotte's deception, using innocent people as tools. Tyler stood beside me as we watched them load Charlotte into the police car. She'd stopped screaming, her face set in lines of defeat. "Are you okay, Grandma?" "I will be," I said, pulling him close. "We both will be." Eugene Walker coordinated with the FBI, sharing months of surveillance data. Margaret arrived with a team of forensic accountants to trace Charlotte's financial crimes. Samuel Bradford began filing charges that would reverberate through 5 states. But the day wasn't over. As crime scene investigators processed my destroyed house, cataloging the damage Charlotte had wrought, Tyler tugged my sleeve. "Grandma, there's something else. In the basement behind the furnace. Grandpa showed me last year, but made me promise not to tell unless something like this happened." We descended into the basement one more time. Tyler moved aside a false panel I'd never noticed, revealing a safe I didn't know existed. Inside were Harold's real treasures. Not gold or bonds, but letters. One for me, one for Tyler, and one for Bradley. Mine was short. "My dearest Inez, if you're reading this, you've weathered the storm I saw coming. I'm sorry I couldn't prevent it, but I knew you were strong enough to survive it. The real treasure isn't money. It's the strength you've shown and the love that endures. Fight for our grandson. Forgive our son if you can. All my love, Harold. Through my tears, I watched Tyler read his letter, his young face cycling through emotions. Whatever Harold had written gave him peace. The letter for Bradley would wait. Maybe someday in prison he'd be ready to read his father's words. As the sun set on the wreckage of Charlotte's scheme, I stood in my ruined garden. The roses Harold planted still bloomed resilient despite the chaos around them. Tomorrow would bring trials, testimony, and the slow work of rebuilding. But tonight I was free. Charlotte's poison was leaving my system. Tyler was safe beside me. And somewhere I knew Harold was smiling. The predator had become prey. The trap had snapped shut, and the queen stood victorious on a battlefield of her own making. Justice had come home to roost. The Whispering Pines. Psychiatric facility squatted like a gray toad on the outskirts of Denver, its windows barred and parking lot nearly empty. I'd been held there for 3 days while the legal system churned through Charlotte's false commitment papers. 3 days of documenting every violation, every forced medication I palmed and hid, every threat disguised as medical concern. Dr. Patricia Hensley, the facility director, had initially bought Charlotte's story completely. But doubt crept in when I calmly recited the facility's violation history, their failed inspections, and the names of 3 patients who died under suspicious circumstances in the past year. A photographic memory Harold always said was better than any weapon. "How do you know these things?" Dr. Hensley had asked, her confidence wavering. "My husband investigated places like this. He taught me what to look for. That orderly, for instance, Dennis Crayman. He's using a false name. His real name is Dennis Crayford, and he lost his license in Wyoming for patient abuse." By day 3, Dr. Hensley was listening more than talking. When the FBI arrived with release orders, she seemed almost relieved. But the real drama was happening outside those walls. Eugene Walker had worked with the FBI task force to coordinate simultaneous raids. Charlotte's network extended far beyond Denver, reaching into assisted living facilities across the Southwest like poisonous vines. I returned home to find my house transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape evidence markers and investigators cataloging years of Charlotte's schemes. Tyler waited on the porch with Margaret wrapped in Harold's old military jacket. "They arrested 14 people, Grandma," he reported with exhausted pride. "The whole network. Even that judge who was supposed to rule on your competency." Margaret filled in the details as we sat in my violated kitchen. "Charlotte's been at this for 12 years. 27 confirmed victims, probably more. The FBI found ledgers tracking every theft, every forged document, every life destroyed." "What about Dr. Ashford?" I asked. "Singing like a canary." Margaret smiled grimly. "Turns out Charlotte wasn't his first venture into medical fraud. He's been declaring patients incompetent for kickbacks since medical school. The medical board is having a field day." The next weeks blurred together in a haze of depositions, evidence reviews, and testimony preparation. I met other survivors via video calls, each story a variation on the same theme. Trusted family members' sudden illness lost everything. But we weren't victims anymore. We were witnesses, and our testimonies would bury Charlotte's operation forever. Tyler moved in officially, his parents' rights severed by the court. He struggled with the betrayal but flourished in the stability. We converted Harold's study into his room, and slowly the house began to feel like home again. The renovation damage was extensive but not irreparable. Miguel and Carlos granted immunity for their cooperation, volunteered to help restore what they'd been forced to destroy. They worked with craftsmen to repair Harold's floors, each board a small redemption. Senora Miguel said one afternoon, his English much improved, "We found something else. Your husband, he was a smart man." Behind a section of damaged wall, they discovered another safe. This one contained stock certificates, patents Harold had filed for military equipment innovations, and documentation for a Swiss bank account he'd opened during his service overseas. The total value stunned even Samuel Bradford. Harold never mentioned any of this, I said, staring at the numbers. He probably didn't know the full value, Samuel explained. These patents alone have generated royalties for 20 years. The account has been growing untouched since the 70s. Wealth I'd never imagined hidden in plain sight. Harold's final gift delivered through destruction. The trial began 6 months later. Charlotte, now correctly identified as Scarlett Vaughn, faced federal charges that read like a novel: murder, attempted murder fraud, conspiracy racketeering, and dozens of lesser crimes. She'd traded her designer suits for orange coveralls, but her hatred remained undimmed. Prosecutor Angela Martinez was Margaret's protégé, brilliant and relentless. She built the case methodically, each victim's testimony another nail in Charlotte's coffin. I testified on day 12. Charlotte stared at me throughout, trying to intimidate, but I'd faced worse than her glare. I told the jury everything: the slow poisoning, the killed cat, the plans to lock me away until I died. I spoke for myself and for those who hadn't survived her schemes. She didn't just steal money, I concluded. She stole safety. She stole trust. She made us afraid of our own families. That's the worst crime of all. Bradley testified too broken and remorseful. He'd pled guilty to lesser charges in exchange for cooperation, finally understanding the magnitude of his choices. His testimony revealed Charlotte's manipulation, how she'd slowly turned him against his own parents with lies and promises. She made me believe Mom was losing her mind, he said, not meeting my eyes. Every story made sense at the time. Now I see how she orchestrated everything. Dr. Ashford's testimony provided medical horror. 17 patients systematically poisoned their symptoms used to justify commitment. 4 had died under his care, their deaths hastened by unnecessary medications. Charlotte promised wealth beyond imagination, he admitted. All I had to do was sign papers. I told myself they were better off in facilities. I was wrong. Tyler testified via video link, the judge ruling his presence unnecessary given his age. But his recorded evidence spoke volumes. Hours of Charlotte and Bradley planning crimes, discussing methods, celebrating victories over the helpless. Charlotte's defense attorney tried to paint her as a victim of her father's imprisonment, traumatized by Harold's investigation. But the prosecutor countered with Charlotte's own words, recorded by Tyler. Trauma didn't make me steal. I steal because I'm good at it, because old people are easy marks, because the system is designed to trust family members. I'd do it again tomorrow if I could. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Charlotte Vaughn, aged 38, received 5 consecutive life sentences plus 200 years. No possibility of parole. As they led her away, she turned to me one last time. Your husband destroyed my father. I destroyed your son. We're even. No, I said clearly. My son destroyed himself, but he has a chance to rebuild. You have nothing but walls and time. Bradley received 5 years with possibility of parole in 3. His genuine remorse and cooperation earned mercy the judge didn't have to grant. During sentencing, he read Harold's letter aloud, weeping as his father's words of love and disappointment washed over him. Dr. Ashford got 25 years. The facility administrators, the corrupt Judge Charlotte's crew of accomplices, all fell like dominoes. The investigation revealed similar operations in other states, a hidden epidemic of elder abuse that made national headlines. But justice wasn't just about punishment. The recovered assets from Charlotte's crimes funded a foundation for elder fraud victims. Gladys Templeton became our first success story. Her stolen life savings restored, her dignity returned. Tyler started his senior year with renewed purpose. The boy who'd hidden in basements became a young man who spoke at schools about recognizing elder abuse. He planned to study law to become the protector Harold had trained him to be. The house slowly healed. New floors couldn't replace Harold's handwork, but they carried their own beauty. The rose garden bloomed spectacularly as if celebrating Charlotte's defeat. Morris couldn't come back, but a shelter cat named Duchess claimed his favorite sunny spot. One evening, as Tyler and I shared dinner in our restored kitchen, he asked the question I'd been dreading. "Do you hate Dad for what he did?" I considered carefully. I hate what he did. I grieve the son he could have been, but hate him that would give Charlotte another victory. Your father was weak, not evil. There's a difference. Grandpa's letter said to forgive if I could. Your grandfather was a wise man. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means not letting anger poison your future. Tyler nodded, mature beyond his years. Maybe I'll write to him when I'm ready. When you're ready, I agreed. That night, I stood in Harold's garden under a full moon. The Mr. Lincoln roses perfumed the air with their deep fragrance. Somewhere, Harold was smiling. His preparations had saved us. His love had sustained us. His wisdom had guided us through the darkness. Charlotte thought she'd won by destroying our family. Instead, she'd revealed our strength. Tyler and I weren't just survivors. We were Harold's legacy, tempered by trial and bound by love, stronger than any scheme. The trap had indeed sprung, but in the end it caught the hunter, not the prey. Justice served, family preserved, love triumphant. The Queen had won the game. Federal Courthouse, downtown Denver, day 43 of Charlotte Vaughn's sprawling trial. The prosecution had methodically built their case like a fortress, each brick a life destroyed, each wall a family shattered. Today was the day her house of cards would finally collapse completely. I sat in the gallery between Tyler and Margaret watching Charlotte at the defense table. 6 months in custody had stripped away her polish. Her roots showed gray, her designer clothes replaced by a cheap suit that hung on her diminished frame. But her eyes still burned with the same malevolence I'd seen the day she tore up my floors. Angela Martinez stood for the prosecution's closing argument, her voice carrying the weight of 27 victims' stories. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard testimony that spans 5 states and 12 years. You've seen evidence of calculated cruelty that borders on the inhuman. Scarlett Vaughn, who called herself Charlotte, didn't just steal money. She stole final years, final moments, final dignity from those who had spent lifetimes earning their peace. The evidence boards lined the courtroom walls. Photos of victims, forged documents, poison purchases, tracked through pharmacy records. At the center, a timeline showing how Charlotte had refined her methods, with each victim becoming more efficient at destruction. Ethel Barnes died believing her family had abandoned her. Angela continued. Robert Chen spent his last months sedated into silence, while Charlotte drained accounts his immigrant parents had saved for 50 years. Patricia Gonzalez lost her home, her health, and finally her will to fight. 27 stories, but hundreds of secondary victims, children and grandchildren who lost not just inheritances, but relationships poisoned by Charlotte's lies. Charlotte's attorney David Rawlings had tried everything: mental illness, traumatic childhood, even claims of coercion by Bradley. Each defense crumbled under the weight of Charlotte's own words, captured in recordings and emails that showed a predator fully aware of her actions. When Rawlings stood for his closing, even he seemed defeated. My client admits to poor choices driven by a destructive need for revenge against the Henderson family. But revenge isn't murder. Poor choices aren't conspiracy. I ask you to see the human being behind these actions, shaped by her father's imprisonment and death. Objection, Angela said quietly. Counsel is arguing facts, not in evidence. Victor Vaughn was imprisoned for theft, not killed. He died of a heart attack 10 years into a justly earned sentence. Sustained, Judge Patricia Morrison ruled. She'd replaced the corrupt Judge Morrison, no relation, who'd been arrested as part of Charlotte's network. The jury filed out at 3:15. Tyler squeezed my hand as we waited. Court observers predicted days of deliberation given the complexity of charges. They were wrong. At 5:23, the bailiff announced the jury had reached verdicts. Charlotte stood as they filed back in her face, finally showing fear. On count 1 murder in the first degree and the death of Harold Henderson, we find the defendant guilty. I closed my eyes, feeling Harold's presence. Justice for the husband who'd protected me even in death. On count 2 attempted murder in the first degree of Inez Henderson, we find the defendant guilty. The verdicts continued. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 137 counts, each one landing like a hammer blow. Charlotte swayed but didn't fall her fingers white as she gripped the defense table. On count 137 interstate racketeering, we find the defendant guilty. Judge Morrison set sentencing for the following month, denying bail. As marshals approached to lead Charlotte away, she suddenly erupted. "You sanctimonious hypocrites, you think you've won. There are dozens like me out there, hundreds. Your precious elderly are sitting ducks and you make it so easy. Power of attorney competency hearings, family trust. It's all a joke. I just played by your rules." She spun toward me, marshals grabbing her arms. "Your husband ruined my life. My father died in a cage because of him. You got everything while we got nothing. This isn't justice. It's perpetuation of a corrupt system that protects the wealthy and destroys the poor." "Your father was a thief," I said, standing slowly. "You became something worse. A thief steals property. You stole hope. You stole trust between generations. You turned families into battlegrounds. That's not justice, Charlotte. That's evil wearing the mask of righteousness." They dragged her out, screaming threats and promises of revenge from prison. The courtroom sat in stunned silence until Judge Morrison banged her gavel. "We're adjourned. Sentencing scheduled for October 15th, 9 a.m. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. Angela Martinez handled the press conference while Tyler and I slipped out the back. But one reporter caught us at the car. "Mrs. Henderson, how does it feel to see Charlotte convicted?" I considered the question. "Empty," I admitted. "Necessary, but empty. She can't give back what she took, but maybe others will think twice before preying on the vulnerable. That's all we can hope for." The next trials came quickly. Dr. Martin Ashford, faced with mountains of evidence, changed his plea to guilty. His sentencing hearing revealed the scope of his crimes. 17 patients over 8 years, their medications altered to create symptoms that justified commitment. "I told myself I was helping them," he said during his allocution, required as part of his plea deal. "That facilities provided better care than family. Charlotte made it easy to believe. The money made it easier. I violated every oath I took as a physician. I deserve whatever sentence this court deems fit." 25 years. The medical board revoked his license permanently. His victims' families filed civil suits that would take whatever assets remained after criminal restitution. Bradley's trial was the hardest. My son, the boy I'd raised and loved, faced judgment for his willing participation in Charlotte's scheme. He testified against her, yes, but his own crimes remained. Tyler attended every day, studying his father's fall with painful intensity. "I need to understand," he told me, "how someone can choose money over family, so I never make that mistake." Bradley pled guilty to reduced charges. During his statement, he read Harold's letter aloud, the one Tyler had found in the hidden safe. "My son, I write this with heavy heart, knowing Charlotte's influence grows daily. You are not evil, but you are weak, and weakness in the face of evil is its own sin. I've watched you change, seen greed replace love, watched ambition poison family loyalty. If you're reading this, it means you've crossed lines that can't be uncrossed, but redemption remains possible. Prison is not the end if you choose to make it a beginning. Learn. Grow. Become the man I once saw in you. Your mother's heart is vast enough for forgiveness if you earn it. Your son needs a father worth respecting. Choose better, Bradley. It's never too late until it is. With love and disappointment, Dad." Bradley wept through the reading. The judge, moved, but not swayed from justice, sentenced him to 5 years with possibility of parole in 3. "Your cooperation matters," she said, "but your betrayal of the woman who gave you life, who trusted you completely, that speaks to character flaws that require serious consequence and reflection. The facility trials exposed a network of corruption that shocked even cynical investigators. Sunset Shores operated in 3 states, warehousing elderly victims who'd been legally kidnapped by family members. 4 had died under suspicious circumstances. Dozens lived in medicated hazes, their assets drained while they slowly faded. Every conviction brought calls from new victims. The FBI established a task force specifically for elder fraud using Charlotte's network as a template for recognizing similar operations. My testimony before Congress helped pass Harold's Law strengthening protections for elderly Americans against predatory family members. But justice wasn't just about verdicts, it was about rebuilding. Miguel and Carlos, granted permanent residency for their cooperation, started a legitimate renovation company. They specialized in accessibility modifications for elderly clients, their prices fair, and work impeccable. I hired them to create a wheelchair ramp for Gladys Templeton, who'd moved to Denver to be near our support group. The Elder Fraud Foundation grew beyond my wildest hopes. Donations poured in from families who'd suffered similar crimes. We funded legal aid, private investigations, and safe housing for victims escaping abusive situations. Tyler designed our website, turning his tech skills toward protection instead of exploitation. One autumn evening, as Charlotte's sentencing approached, I found Tyler in Harold's Rose Garden. He was reading college brochures, all law schools with strong elder law programs. "Grandpa would be proud," I said, settling beside him on the bench Harold built. "I hope so. I want to be the kind of lawyer who stops people like Charlotte before they can hurt anyone." "You will be. You have something most lawyers lack: personal understanding of how these crimes destroy families." He was quiet for a moment. "Do you think Dad can change? Really change?" "I think prison will either break him or remake him. The choice is his, but having you in his future, that's motivation to choose wisely." October 15th arrived crisp and bright. The courthouse filled with victims and their families, all come to see Charlotte Vaughn face final judgment. She entered in shackles, her defiance dimmed, but not extinguished. Judge Morrison didn't mince words. "Ms. Vaughn, you've been convicted of crimes that span over a decade and destroyed dozens of lives. You showed no mercy to your victims, manipulating the very systems designed to protect them. You've expressed no genuine remorse, only anger at being caught." She detailed each crime, each life lost or ruined. The litany took 20 minutes, a cascade of cruelty that left spectators weeping. "Therefore, this court sentences you to 5 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole, plus 230 years for the remaining counts. You will die in prison, Ms. Vaughn. You will never again have the opportunity to prey upon the vulnerable." Charlotte stood silent, her last gambit of tears and pleas dying unspoken. As marshals led her away, she looked back once. Not at me, but at Tyler. Something passed across her face, perhaps recognition that her legacy would be his determination to stop others like her. The media frenzy lasted weeks. Our story became a cautionary tale warning families about the signs of elder exploitation. I did interviews reluctantly, always redirecting focus to the systemic changes needed to prevent future Charlotte Vaughns. Tyler and I settled into a new rhythm. He excelled in his senior year, his college applications compelling not just for grades, but for the mature perspective earned through trial. He chose Georgetown, their elder law program, ranked among the best. "I'll visit every break," he promised as we toured campus. "And Dad will be out by the time I graduate. Maybe he can watch me pass the bar." "Maybe," I agreed, hoping Bradley would earn that privilege. The house felt different now, not just restored, but renewed. Harold's presence remained in every corner, but it was a comfortable haunting full of love and memory. The rose garden bloomed magnificently as if celebrating our survival. One evening, as spring arrived with its promise of new beginnings, Margaret joined me for tea. We'd become true friends through the ordeal, her prosecutorial wisdom balanced by genuine warmth. "Any regrets?" she asked, watching sunset paint the mountains gold. Only that Harold isn't here to see how strong Tyler has become, and that Bradley lost his way so completely. He might find it again. Prison has a way of clarifying priorities. Perhaps, but Tyler is the future now. Him and all the others who will stand between predators and prey because of what we've endured. That night, I wrote in the journal I'd started during the trial. Charlotte Vaughn thought she was avenging her father by destroying our family. Instead, she forged us into something stronger. Tyler will become the protector Harold trained him to be. I've found purpose in my pain, turning tragedy into advocacy. Even Bradley might emerge from darkness renewed. Evil exists. It wears familiar faces and speaks in loving tones. But good exists too in grandsons who risk everything for their grandmothers, in prosecutors who fight for the voiceless, in judges who uphold justice despite pressure. Harold, my love, we won. Not just the trial, but the war for our family's soul. Tyler carries your wisdom forward. I tend your roses and guard your legacy. And somewhere in a federal prison, your son reads your letter and perhaps finally understands what he lost and what he might still gain. Rest easy, my soldier. The mission is complete. The family endures. Love conquers all. I closed the journal and headed to bed, pausing to straighten Harold's photo on the nightstand. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new victims needing help, new predators to expose. But tonight, justice had been served, complete, final, and absolute. The Queen stood victorious, her kingdom secured for the next generation. 3 years have passed since Charlotte Vaughn was led away in shackles, and I can finally tend Harold's roses without seeing her shadow in every corner. This morning, like every morning I start my day in the garden, the Mr. Lincoln roses bloom magnificently, their deep red petals holding drops of dawn dew like tears of joy rather than sorrow. Tyler, now 21, and in his final year at Georgetown Law, is home for spring break. I watch from the kitchen window as he helps Miguel and Carlos install a new garden bench, laughing at something Carlos says in Spanish. My grandson has grown tall and confident, his grandfather's wisdom shining through eyes that have seen too much, but chosen hope over bitterness. Mail's here, Grandma. Tyler calls, bringing in a stack that includes a familiar envelope from the federal prison in Florence. Bradley writes every week now his letters, a chronicle of transformation that began with Harold's words and continues through intensive therapy and education programs. Today's letter is different, heavier. I open it with hands that barely tremble anymore, finding not just Bradley's usual pages, but an official document. Dear Mom, the letter begins. My parole hearing is next month. The board wants letters from family members. I'm not asking you to write one. I haven't earned that yet. But I wanted you to know that whether I'm released or serve the full 5 years, I'm not the same man who betrayed you. The enclosed certificate is my bachelor's degree in social work earned through the prison education program. I plan to work with at-risk youth to maybe prevent another kid from becoming who I became. Tyler knows the details if you want them. I love you. I'm sorry. Your son, Bradley. Tyler reads over my shoulder, his hand finding mine. He's changed, Grandma. I visited him 6 times. He's different. People can change. I agree. Your grandfather believed that, even when it hurt to hope. The doorbell interrupts our moment. Gladys Templeton stands on my porch with 2 other women, all members of our survivor support group that now meets weekly in my living room. We call ourselves the Phoenix Club, rising from the ashes of attempted destruction. Inez, dear, have you seen the news? Gladys holds up her tablet. They arrested another Charlotte in Florida. 17 victims. The FBI used our case as the template to catch her. We settle in the living room now, warm and welcoming, where it once hosted Charlotte's schemes. The wall displays photos from our advocacy work, Tyler testifying before Congress about elder protection laws, me receiving an award from the Department of Justice, our support group celebrating Gladys's 80th birthday in the home she'd nearly lost. As the women share updates, I think about how far we've come. The Henderson Elder Justice Foundation has helped over 300 families recover assets and dignity. Tyler's website, connecting victims with resources, gets thousands of visits monthly. Harold's Law has been adopted by 32 states, with more considering strengthened elder protections. But the real victories are smaller, quieter. Gladys learning to trust her nephew again. Miguel's daughter graduating college debt-free, thanks to the scholarship our foundation provides. Tyler's ability to love despite witnessing his parents' betrayal. My own heart scarred, but still capable of joy. After the group leaves, Tyler and I visit an unexpected place, Sunset Shores. The facility where Charlotte planned to warehouse me has been transformed. New management-trained staff and regular inspections have made it a model for ethical elder care. The director invited me to speak at their reform celebration. Institutions aren't inherently evil. I tell the gathered staff and residents, they become evil when good people stay silent. Every one of you has the power to be a protector or a predator. Choose wisely. Afterward, we stop at the cemetery. Harold's headstone stands solid and dignified like the man himself. Tyler places fresh roses from the garden while I trace the carved letters of Harold's name. He saved us, Tyler says quietly. Even gone, he saved us. He gave us the tools, I correct gently. We saved ourselves. That's what he'd want us to remember. We stand in comfortable silence, 3 generations connected by love, stronger than any scheme. A movement catches my eye and I see Bradley at another grave across the cemetery. He's thinner, grayer, but stands straight as he places flowers on a marker. Charlotte's mother's grave, I realize. He's making peace with all the damage. Our eyes meet across the distance. Bradley raises his hand slightly, not quite a wave more, an acknowledgement. Tyler looks between us, waiting for my lead. I nod once. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It isn't immediate trust, but it's a beginning. That evening, as Tyler prepares dinner using Harold's famous pot roast recipe, the doorbell rings again. A young woman stands nervously on the porch, holding the hand of an elderly man who looks frightened and confused. Mrs. Henderson, I'm Sarah Chen. This is my grandfather. We heard about your foundation. We think my uncle is doing something terrible. I invite them in, recognizing the fear in their eyes, the desperation I once felt. Tyler brings tea as Sarah tells their story. Forged documents, sudden illness after new medications, talk of facilities and selling the family home. The pattern Charlotte perfected playing out again. We'll help, I promise. Tyler, call Eugene. Sarah, do you have any documentation? Any recordings? As we begin another rescue, I think about Charlotte in her federal cell. She was right about one thing. There are dozens, hundreds like her, waiting to prey on the vulnerable. But she was wrong about the rest. We're not sitting ducks. We're not helpless. We're an army of survivors, protectors, and advocates growing stronger with each victory. Tyler coordinates with our network while I comfort Mr. Chen. By midnight, Eugene has enough evidence for law enforcement involvement. By morning, another predator will face justice, another family saved from destruction. You're doing Harold's work, Sarah whispers as we wait for police. My mother told me about your husband, how he protected people. You're just like him. No, I say, thinking of the man who loved roses and justice equally. I'm just a grandmother who learned to fight back. Anyone can do what I did. Everyone should. As dawn breaks over Denver, painting the mountains in shades of hope, I water Harold's roses one more time. The garden blooms fuller each year, beauty born from careful tending and deep roots, like our rebuilt family, like the network of protection we've created, like the love that survives every assault. Tyler appears with coffee and news. Sarah's uncle was arrested. Mr. Chen is safe. The foundation's emergency fund will cover his legal costs. Good. What's your day look like? Studying for the bar lunch with Dad at the prison, then helping Margaret prep for the Rodriguez case. Congressional conference call about expanding Harold's Law interview with 60 Minutes, then dinner with the Phoenix Club. Just another Tuesday. We laugh the sound bright in morning air. This is our life now. Not the one we planned, but perhaps the one we were meant to live. Purpose born from pain, strength forged in struggle, love proven through trials Charlotte never imagined we'd survive. My phone buzzes with a text from Bradley, watching the news. Another family saved. Dad would be proud. You're his greatest legacy. Love your son. Perhaps redemption is possible after all. As Tyler heads inside to study, I linger in the garden. A new bush catches my eye, one I didn't plant. A note hangs from its branches. Mrs. H, thank you for saving my grandma. This is her favorite rose. Plant it with love. Tommy Martinez, age 12. I smile, kneeling to check the soil. Room for one more. Room for dozens more. Each rose a life saved. A family preserved, a predator stopped. Harold's garden has become something larger, a living testament to the power of fighting back. The morning sun climbs higher, warming old bones that have learned new strength. Somewhere, Charlotte serves her life sentence, her legacy nothing but cautionary tales and strengthened laws. Somewhere, Bradley studies for his own future learning to help instead of harm. Somewhere, a grandchild huddles with their grandparent, planning escape from a predator who doesn't yet know they've already lost. And here in a garden that blooms despite every assault, an elderly woman who refused to be a victim tends roses and stands guard. The war. Charlotte started continues, but the battlefield has shifted. We're not playing defense anymore. We're on the hunt, protectors stalking predators, turning their own weapons against them. Harold trained Tyler to be invisible. Tyler taught me to be unbreakable. Together, we've become something Charlotte never anticipated, dangerous to those who prey on the vulnerable. The Mr. Lincoln roses nod in the breeze, approving. Their thorns are sharp, their blooms magnificent. Beauty and defense in perfect balance. Just like the life we've built from the ruins of Charlotte's greed. Just like the family we've become. Just like the future we protect one saved grandparent at a time. I head inside to begin another day of battle, leaving the garden gate open. Let predators come. We're ready. The queen doesn't just defend her castle anymore. She leads the charge. Dear readers, have you or someone you know ever experienced manipulation or abuse from someone you trusted? What warning signs do you wish you'd recognize sooner? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help another family recognize danger before it's too late. If you found value in Inez's journey of triumph over betrayal, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who might need to hear that it's never too late to fight back. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, true strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. May you find the courage to protect what matters most and the wisdom to see through any deception. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay strong, and never forget that the best defense is a community that watches out for each other.